Good day to you all again. So good to be with you. Bill Pfeiffer speaking from Mary's Field. We continue today to do, I guess it would be part 4 of our segment on married priests and some of the things that and the implications that flow and follow from that. I want to say again that I am ordained. It's 58 years on May 11th, and I'm married for 45 years with 6 beautiful children. And that's who I am. I am a Catholic priest, a husband, a father, and I'd like to think that any one of these vocations makes me better at the other two. And I not only like to think that, I know that that's been the case over the years. And so we speak again, it's in June, and Pope Francis has just declared this as Sacred Vocations Month, and so it's a good time for us to spend a little bit of time talking about married Catholic priests, vocations, and the situation in the church today. To take up from our last time, I wanted to clean up something. We talked about one of the situations that we did deal with in Mary's Field was a man who had come who had been ritually abused by a satanic group when he was about 4 or 5 years old, and terrible story. I really don't want to tell you anything about that, but as Cindy, my wife, says, don't crack the door. You don't want to leave yourself open to this possibility of happening in your own life, and not in like this man did, but Satan's a sneaky son of a gun. He just is, and if you leave the door open in any way through Ouija boards and seances and other kinds of things, he's liable to take advantage of that and jump in and cause you grief where you really don't need that kind of grief in your life. So don't get involved with anything that could open the door to your beautiful heart. That's not a good thing. And I'm speaking from experience on this kind of thing. I've all of the time that we're talking, this time we'll probably try to spend some more time talking about Mary's Field and so on, and all of the time that I'm talking about Mary's Field, I'm still teaching at 3, 4, or 5 Latin classes, or in some years a little bit of English when I didn't have enough Latin classes, and so that's another thing that's been happening all during our lives as we are entering into this aspect of our ministry, Mary's Field. I want to in general say that the church and society are filled with 3 kinds of people, and this is true for all institutions. You have first the uncritical lovers. These are people who love their culture, their church, their institutions almost blindly. They can't see any defects or shortcomings. They're the uncritical lovers. Everything's good, everything's always good, and when anything bad happens, or they even think of anything bad, it can't possibly be with my culture, my institution, and whatever. And that's just not totally correct, huh? And that's so number 1, uncritical lovers. Number 2 is unloving critics. These people know how to criticize, to complain, to gripe. They have no positive input at all. All they do is complain and gripe about the problems, the administration, the culture, the country, whatever. That's all they do. And then there's the third group, the critical lovers. That's a group of people of wisdom, of real insight, people who see and feel the consequences of present decisions and their effects on the future. God, we need them. They're kind of prophets. They see things clearly, they see them with wisdom, and they know how to understand it, interpret it, and to be able to do something about it in a creative way. God, we need those people today. And we need critical, wise lovers. Where there is no wisdom, the people perish, and that's what's happening in our culture now at this particular point. And I might add, whenever you hear something about anything, I've made this a kind of a principle in my own life. If I've heard something that I don't completely agree with, or I think is a little bit off, or it's just simply new, I say to myself, could it possibly be that they might be right and Bill Pfeiffer, this great Bill Pfeiffer, might be wrong? That they might know something I don't know, that they see and understand something I don't see and understand, so that we just don't completely dismiss things offhandedly and not suspect that, I'm fallible too. And maybe I could be wrong and they could be right. I think we all need to have that kind of thing working in our lives at all times. Otherwise, I hear people, well, my parents voted Democratic for my whole life, and therefore, or my parents voted Republican. Well, stop. stop. Maybe take a look at things and see whether or not everything that you think is really correct. So we're now at Mary's Field. We needed a place to go to. We told the story of our children and so on. And we now have this beautiful 20-some acres and a beautiful indoor pool with beautiful meeting rooms, a tennis court that's lit up at night. And it's just a beautiful place to run the retreats. And we know the Lord has led us there by all kinds of reasons. So some of the things that are happening at this particular time, to help you know, we're talking about married priesthood. I led a prayer group for about 4 years. I gave adult and teen retreats during this time. We did days of recollection, adult religious education talks with my wife Cindy was involved in a lot of these things. Marriage enrichment programs. We did marriage and family counseling, spiritual direction. All of these things are happening off and on. I celebrated the Eucharist at Mary's Field Center for about 30 people every Sunday for about 12 years, and now at home for my family. It was especially beautiful, and especially beautiful here with my family, my children, my grandchildren on Christmas Eve. And it's just a wonderful thing to be able to do that. I've given the sacraments to people who wouldn't approach their local parish priest for some reason. The sacrament of the sick, people are dying and they don't like the priest, they don't want to be with him, or for some reason or other. And so again, we have 6 children that we're caring for during all this time, 5 teenagers at one time. Cindy and I, and mostly Cindy, during the 13 years that our kids were growing up, we changed about 36,000 diapers, and these were cloth diapers. We needed to clean these, and they weren't the disposable kind of thing, and so on. It's been something that's ongoing, but at the same time, we have our lives that we're living, and which shows that married priesthood is something that indeed works with family and so on. I have dozens and dozens of priest friends who are married and who have shared their ministry in so many ways, as doctors, literally as lawyers, as heads of education in different states. As psychiatrists, psychologists, and counselors, as teachers and professors in colleges. All of this talent that could have been used in the church had it been shared as married Catholic priests. So. I'm sorry if I repeat some things, but there's so many things that need to be shared too. Ultimately, the only reason I'm doing this is for you or for whoever's watching this podcast to be able to say somewhere, God, this thing about married priests, it really does work out. You can be married, you can be a priest, you can have a job, you can have children, you can share stuff with the Lord, and it all works out fine. You don't have to be celibate to do all of these things. Celibacy is a good thing. It's a wonderful thing. Again, I'm not knocking that in any way, shape, or form. It's a beautiful charism given by the Holy Spirit, and who am I to, object to what the Holy Spirit decides to do? During this time, we do have this retreat center, and so we're offering retreats. 2 times a year, a group of Alcoholics Anonymous ladies come. They spend a whole weekend there for the retreat. We had nurses there with continuing education program. There were confirmation retreats, retreats for inner city kids, parish and church retreats for gay men, race relations retreats long before it was popular. We had retreats for African American high school girls. We had retreats for the Episcopal Bishop and his board of directors. We had teachers in-service training for high school teachers and so on. So the place was being used in so many different ways. Cindy and I were doing this on a weekend retreats. We were not good at asking for money, and if anybody listening to this podcast could help us out, we'd appreciate that. But we've never been good at asking for money. We were asking for, at the beginning, $55 for 5 meals for a whole retreat weekend. Cindy and I were doing all of the cooking and the cleaning, and Cindy would go on a Friday to Sam's, come home with $500 or $600 worth of food, have to put it away. We'd have to cook and clean up all of the dishes and whatever for 5 meals for the group that was with us on that particular weekend. So it's not been an easy thing, and our kids helped in so many ways as well, helping with the cleaning, helping with the cutting of the grass, and all of the things that needed to be done to keep a rather nice sized facility working. we could take care, and we did, for about 25 to 30 people on weekends. I was also producing a newsletter, which we've done every month for the last 39 years. Not a newsletter, but something that deals with the spiritual life, with the culture around us, and uplifts people's hearts and spirits. That's the purpose of this so-called newsletter, but it's really more than just, it never kind of ever was just involved in just newsiness. And so, again, I'm sharing all of this. Nothing is as strong as an idea whose time has come. And I believe that that's the truth with the idea of married priesthood in the church. No matter where, what's happening at the present moment, or wherever it's happening, this is an idea whose time has come, and there's no avoiding it. And that's really the truth about it all. I don't want to be a burden by, offering too many examples here and so on, but enough to help you to know and be comfortable with this idea. One thing that happened, we paid $600,000 for this retreat center. The bank owned it, and for about 2 years, and they really wanted to get rid of it. And after we were paying the mortgage for about 2 years or so, something irregular happened at the bank, and in the process of our sale or something. But they came to us and said, "We'll give it to you for $300,000 if you can raise $50,000 and in cash." And so we asked our sponsors, our patrons, and we came up with the $50,000. So we're at a meeting in Hartford. Fancy place, it smells of lawyers, beautiful table, everybody sitting around with our board of directors and the bank people and lawyers to finalize this second coming for our retreat. After all of the paperwork was finished and the lawyers and the bank seemed to be happy, the bank representative said, "Gee, you guys still owe us $2,000. And I can't remember what it was for. It was kind of a strange thing. It wasn't mortgage or whatever. I don't remember what it was. But one of our board members said, "Would you take $1,000?" And the bank man the representative, thought about it for a minute and said, No, not $1,000. And then silence for about 10 or 15 seconds, and then Cindy says in the middle of the group, "Would you take 500?" And the man says, "Good, done." And everybody looked and wondered, what just happened? Wasn't she here? They was asking for 2,000. Someone asked, "Would you take 1,000?" The man said, "No." Why would you say, "Would you take 500?" Well, during that lull, the Lord said to Cindy, "Offer him $500. It's fair." And so Cindy took again the leap of faith, as she always does, and it looks foolish in so many cases. "Would you take the 500? I remember Betty, one of our board members, afterwards saying, "Weren't you there? Didn't you hear what happened?" But the fact is, she did. She heard the Lord. She offered 500. It was of the Lord. The bank man, without a breath, said, "It's done." And they're the kinds of things that were happening all the time. And so we knew that the Lord was in control, that what we were doing was good, it was of him, and the results and the effects of all of the stuff that we were doing was that of God, not ourselves. So I hope that this story is something that is believable for you, that ends up sharing a story that touches your heart and makes things happen. I did a little wrap up in thinking about the whole thing, and this is really what I wanted to say in a kind of a global way. The whole concern about whether priests should be celibate or not is completely ended once you admit the unassailable truth, the truth that celibacy is a gift freely given by God, by the Holy Spirit, and freely received by some priests and not by others. After that, you're kind of finished. There's nothing else to really talk about much. St. Paul says in 1 Corinthians 7, each one has his own gift from God. One has the gift of celibacy, and another has the gift of marriage. So each one has his own gift from God. It's a gift from God. One this, and the other that, says St. Paul. Understand this truth, and from that point on, all of the goodness, the glory, and the fruit of celibacy, as described beautifully in the recent book by Pope Benedict XVI and Cardinal Sarah, it's true. All of the things they say there are true about celibacy, but only for those who have been given the gift, the charism, by the Holy Spirit. Forced celibacy becomes a burden and a hindrance to ministry for those who have not been blessed and received this gift from the Holy Spirit. Celibacy is a free gift of the Holy Spirit, not a demand, or cannot ever be a demand made by law. Think of the countless number of lives in just the past 40 years that have been seriously injured by this lack of understanding. You know, it's just not the way it should be. I am a priest, a Catholic priest, a husband, a father of 6 beautiful children. I'd like to think that any one of these vocations makes me better at the other 2. I have been blessed with a wife who is a good, holy, wise woman. And as a result of my relationship with her for 45 years, I am a better man, I am a better husband, I am a better priest, I am a better father as a result of this relationship. And I know that that is true for the countless numbers of married Catholic priests in this country, about 25,000 in all at the last count. So it's been good to be with you, and as things come to my mind over future podcasts, I'll be able to share them and hopefully be able to continue to make this particular question that exists in the church that's really essential that it be resolved. You know, again, I usually finish, and it's true about this as well as anything else. Happiness tomorrow, really does depend on doing the truth today. Sometimes that truth isn't so apparent, or sometimes it isn't so easy to do. But sometimes that's why it's the truth, is because it isn't so easy to do. And this is one of the topics that affects now and will affect many, many people in the future. So I'm looking forward to being with you and perhaps unfolding other ideas as this comes around. Feel free to share all of this, incidentally, with your friends. That's a gift that you can give to other people, and we all are being bombarded with all kinds of negativism these days, and to be able to share something that produces life and goodness in the hearts of your friends and in the people in the community, that's a gift in itself, and you have the opportunity on many occasions to be able to do that without bashfulness. Do it. You'll be pleasing God, you'll be pleasing and helping a lot of people in the process. Always so very, very good to be with you. God bless you. You're in my thoughts and prayers always. Have a nice day.